Beached for over a year on the western shores of the Caspian Sea, it looks like a colossal aquatic beast. Something bizarre, perhaps more at home beneath the water than in the air. It certainly doesn't look like something that could ever fly, because he is a sea monster. The Caspian Sea Monster, a unique hybrid of a boat and a plane, initially puzzled U.S. intelligence after its discovery during the Cold War. United States intelligence spotted a concerning vehicle during a mission over the Caspian Sea. As a spy satellite hovered over a Soviet naval base, it took images of an aircraft unlike anything seen in the West before. It was over 100 meters long and had unique, stubby square wings. What could this giant be? Let's take a look. Initially, officials thought the aircraft could be a standard plane, perhaps even a seaplane. However, the size of the unfinished production made them think again. According to a BBC report, analysts in U.S. intelligence realized that once the aircraft was completed, it wouldn't be able to fly very high. Moreover, the engines were found well forward of the wing. The Caspian Sea Monster was an entirely different ball game. The build was an aquatic, also known as a wing-in-ground effect craft. It was designed to fly at high velocity just a few meters above the level of the sea. Ground effect technology involves the wind creating a dynamic cushion of air when it's close to the ground, and the plane effectively rides on top of this. Overall, it can be an efficient way of flying as it can increase lift by as much as 40%. In the race for power, Soviet designer and inventor Rostislav Alexeyev, a powerhouse when it comes to modern hydrofoils, was behind the concept. The aquatic would travel at high speed above the surface but below enemy radar. More importantly, in the context of warfare, it would be immune to mines, torpedoes, and anti-submarine nets due to the aircraft's massive size and abilities. The Soviet Union's eagerness to surpass its rivals led leader Nikita Khrushchev to express his support for the project and give it an open checkbook. The Central Hydrofoil Design Bureau worked extensively on the experimental aircraft, called Korbel Maket, KM, which roughly translates as prototype ship. KM's empty weight was 240,000 kilograms, 529,000 pounds, and its max takeoff weight was 544,000 kilograms, 1,199,315 pounds. A whopping 10 Dobrynin VD7 turbine engines with 127.53 knots, 28,670 lbf, thrust each helped the aircraft achieve its performance capabilities. A maximum speed of 500 km per hour, 310 miles per hour, 270 knots, a cruise speed of 430 km per hour, 270 miles per hour, 230 knots, and a range of 1,500 kilometers, 930 miles, 810 nmi. Moreover, the unit's ground effect altitude was 4 to 14 meters, 13 feet 1 inch to 45 feet 11 inches, while its maximum sea state was 1.2 meters, 3 feet 11 inches. The main advantage of the aquatic is its ability to fly low at high speeds over water, making it difficult to detect by radar and air defense systems. Unusual flying boats of this type were dubbed sea monsters by U.S. intelligence, as the Soviet Union frequently experimented with behemoths in the Caspian Sea. However, once KM was spotted, alarms were further raised. A CIA report from the end of 1988 considered that the operational utilization of the aquatic in the Soviet Baltic and Black Sea fleets was due to start in the early 1990s. However, as we know now, history would go in another direction. In October 1966, the aircraft conducted its maiden flight and accelerated to 400 kilometers per hour. Despite the progress in testing, the project's support soon started to fade away. Leonid Brezhnev became the head of the Soviet Union in 1964, and he wasn't as impressed with the idea. The Bureau subsequently went in a slightly different direction, designing the A-90 Orleanok, a smaller production but still a grand unit, standing at 80% the size of a Boeing 747. Additional experiments inspired by KM included the development of another military aquatic, the Lewin class, which weighs 280 tons and is 74 meters long. Noticeably, it is fitted with 6 rocket launchers that could engage enemy ships. In 1975, during a test flight, an engine on an Orleanoc fell off. Despite Alexeyev helping to avert danger during the mission, Soviet leadership blamed him for the incident and removed him as chief of his bureau. Alexeyev would pass away in 1980 while testing another aquanoplan. At the end of the same year, the KM prototype also saw the end of its life, crashing into the Caspian Sea during a test flight. The cause of the crash is believed to be pilot error, leaving the plane damaged beyond repair. The CIA intelligence report added that the Caspian Sea Monster held the title of the largest and heaviest plane to fly until 1988, when the Antonov Tu-25 first took flight. Altogether, these aquanoplans remind us of a critical time in history when innovations were rife, with superpowers trying to outdo each other. The Soviet Union was a firm believer in the power of the aircraft, and experiments such as these show that they weren't scared to think outside the box. The Caspian Sea Monster, larger than a Boeing 747 and armed to the teeth with missiles, is beyond unique. With 8 huge jet engines, the hybrid ship aircraft was officially named Korabl Maket. Built by the Soviet Union during the Cold War, it weighed 240 tons when empty, had a 72-foot height, a 123-foot wingspan, and a top speed of 310 miles per hour. It was an experimental vehicle developed in the 1960s to attack NATO nuclear submarines and aircraft carriers. The machine first entered service in 1966 and was continuously tested by the Soviet Navy until it crashed in the Caspian Sea in 1980. It was decommissioned when the Soviet Union collapsed in the early 1990s and lay dormant for more than 3 decades at Kaspiansk Naval Base. In July 2020, the Sea Monster was dragged by 3 tugs and flanked by 2 escort vessels through the shores of the Caspian Sea to a stretch of coast near Russia's southernmost point, likely in its final journey. The massive ship plane is now beached as a museum in Derbent. The fire-breathing aquatic beast is perhaps one of the weirdest-looking machines ever built. With 4 engines stacked in a row on each of its wings, it carried 6 anti-ship missiles and launch tubes at the top of its hull, which could travel up to 60 miles at 3 times the speed of sound. American spies were once convinced that the aquanoplan or ground effect vehicle could be used for laying mines as well as for anti-submarine warfare and search and rescue operations. In the 1980s, the Soviet Union wanted to build 8 of the machines to take on U.S. Navy warships. According to naval warfare expert H.I. Sutton, the Sea Monster was impressively fast and heavily armed, a classic superweapon of the Cold War. Aquanoplans such as the Korabl Maket move over water without actually touching it, ordinarily skimming the surface at heights between 3 and 16 feet. Their proximity to the surface of the water while flying makes them difficult to detect by radar. It is an aerodynamic advantage called ground effect. The Sea Monster was capable of taking off and landing in storm conditions with waves of up to 8 feet and never flew 30 feet above sea level, meaning it was technically considered a ship. The Lewin-class ship plane was manned by a crew of 15, 6 officers, and 9 sailors. The U.S. feared at the time that it would bring a new dimension to naval surface warfare. A second Sea Monster was designed for rescue and supply missions and was nearly completed by the early 1990s, but the project was scrapped when the Soviet Union collapsed. At the same time, the existing aquanoplan was withdrawn from service.